Hello, Michael. You're up next.
Hey Bart, how's it going?
How's it going, Michael? We got a hand for us here?
Yeah, so this one's out of Hollywood Casino at the Meadows, which is in Washington, Pennsylvania, just outside of Pittsburgh.
Oh, okay. So just out of Washington, Pennsylvania, and is that related to the Hollywood that's in West Virginia?
I think it's part of the same family, but they're a few hours away from each other.
Yeah,
So
because when I had never heard of that place. I mean, I always think of Rivers when I think Pittsburgh, but I know that there's that one place in West Virginia. Okay, so I'm just gonna put like sort of Pittsburgh, Hollywood
sure.
in Pittsburgh. And what game you playing?
This is a 2-5 game, $1,000 max buy-in, but there's a 75% match the stack.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, it's that in essence is almost like it's uncapped. I mean, it's not quite match the stack, but except in the beginning of the game. But a lot of times too, like if you're playing like in a match the stack game or a setup like this, where the only difference that makes it between uncapped and not is just the beginning of the game. In every single game setup like that, nobody cares from what I've seen about just people just adding on money in the beginning of the game. I don't know how it is there, but
It's not super strictly enforced, but sometimes
yeah.
it'll be a little. It depends.
Okay. And how deep are you for this hand?
Just shy of 1,800, I think.
All right. So just shy of 1,800. No straddles or anything, or?
There are occasionally straddles, but not in this hand.
Okay. So straight 2-5. So pretty deep. Okay. All right. Start us off.
All right, hero is in the hijack with ace queen offsuit, so ace of diamonds, queen of spades. It folds to hero, so I raised 25, which is a pretty normal opening range there. It folds around to the small blind, who 3-bets to 120. Big blind folds, and hero calls.
So your head's up.
Yes.
Ace of diamonds, queen of spades?
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to put the pot at 250. So you're in the hijack, you open to 25, pretty big straight open, 5x. But I mean, the stacks are deep. I actually did a little segment on the flagship pod last week about incentives in cash games, because we had that hand from last week with Melinda when somebody opened a 35 at 2-5 and she had queen 10 of diamonds playing off like a 485 stack. And I was like, I think this is just a fold. You know, you can really best hand people when people start to use very, very large sizing, because there's just not, in a non-anteed game, there is no incentive to enter the pot. Like, you're risking 25 as the preflop raiser to win 7. There's that. But I mean, I know there's like live dynamics and things like that. So you're in like somewhat mid position. This guy 3-bets to 120. So, you know, larger sizing up to almost 5x. I always use the example of like ace queen off being a fold sometimes as one of your worst hands. If you're opening from up front, say you open like under the gun and like somebody calls and then small blind comes swinging out as a 3-bet, and then you get to deal with a guy behind you, that can easily be a fold. And that's just a function of you're going to be folding off a certain percentage of hands to a 3-bet. And because the earlier that you open, the less hands that you have, that percentage that you're defending overall is going to just equate to less hands you're defending. Like if you open 15% from under the gun and then you're going to defend 50% to a 3-bet, you're left with 7.5% of total hands. If you're opening 40% from the button and you're going to defend 50% to the 3-bet, you're left with 20% of hands. So this one's somewhere in the middle. I would probably call, and then you can, if somebody had flatted behind you, it could become a 4-bet or fold spot, but it's easy when it's heads up. So 250 here to the flop, okay?
The flop comes queen of hearts, jack of hearts, and then what I perceive to be a complete brick. So we'll call it the deuce of clubs.
All right. So queen of hearts, jack of hearts, deuce of clubs. So you flop top pair.
Yes.
Okay.
So small blind, continue bet, C-bets $175, and hero calls.
So somewhat of a larger sizing here. It is a 2-flush high board, and we see this larger sizing reflected in single raise pots, but you can also see it in 3-bet pots as well. I mean, he definitely has queens and jacks here. Maybe you have queens, jacks, and deuces, but still, I mean, I would probably tend to take somewhat of a larger sizing with some overpairs and things like that. I don't necessarily know what the optimal sizing is on a board like this out of this configuration using optimal preflop ranges, but you obviously have to call. So 175, hero calls with the ace queen. And now we're off to 600 in the pot. And okay, so let's go to the turn, queen, jack, deuce.
Yeah, now the turn is an interesting card. It's the ace of hearts.
Okay.
And small blind bets about half pot. He goes for 300, and hero goes ahead and calls.
So small blind bets 300, hero calls. So you make top two, but obviously there's a front door flush draw out there. And again, I think that you have to continue here to half pot sizing. I don't know if ace king with the king of hearts here bets, just continues to bet. Again, it's kind of how you construct, how he thinks, or if he should bet, how he thinks you should construct your open and defending range. But I'll give you a practical example of how maybe ace king with the king of hearts might be a bet like more in a setup where he's in like a really tight setup, like small blind versus under the gun. Whereas maybe if he 3-bet from small blind and like you opened button and then defended, you're going to have more flushes. So it should be reflected more as a check from him with a lot of hands, whether it's sets, ace king with the king of hearts, something like that. But I do find, because I think a lot of people check, ace king with the king of hearts here. They're not going to bet kings with the king of hearts. What's the point of that, right? Because they're ahead of a lot of other things. And you still see a lot of reflection of sets checking here. So it is quite interesting. Obviously, I would call once again. Now, you call 300, 475. So you guys have 1,200-ish left. Yeah, it looks like you're getting the river with one pot size bet left. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So river is a complete brick. We'll call it, 5 of diamonds. And SB kind of takes a minute, looks at my stack, figures out about how much it is, and decides to shove all in. Almost exactly a pot size bet. Do you have any backstory on this guy? I play with him a little bit. He seems like he's a very capable reg, clearly a for-profit player. He has he does have a 3-bet fold button. He's not one of the players that, only 3-bets with aces and kings. I would expect he's probably structuring pretty close to what he should be. So do you think he's a winning player? Yes. You think he's a winning player? I'm just kind of trying to think through in my head if you wanted to, obviously you're getting 2-1, right? We'll just call it a pot size bet. So if you wanted to look at this from a minimum defense frequency standpoint, just to go through the exercise, he's betting pot, which means that you would need to defend with half the hands that you arrive here with, right? That's where people think a little bit wrong. Half the hands that you arrive here with, sort of to make it, so that he's not able to profitably bluff here. So I'm trying to kind of thinking about what is your hijack opening and then defending range. How many suited hands do you have here in this spot? Do you open 7-6 suited and then, defend to a 3-bet? I'm just asking you in this particular configuration. I think I probably would, yes. You think you probably would. So you have flushes here. Obviously you have sets. How do I get to the river with a flush, though? I would think I might raise a fair amount of my flushes that when he bets into me on the turn. Maybe, but I would say that maybe having some small flushes as just really good square call down hands could, if I had 7-6 of hearts here, I might just call down. You just go call. Something like that. I mean, you don't really need to bet. I mean, you're only at one pot size bet left, so you don't really need to do, it's not like you're super deep, right? So I'm just kind of trying to go through here because, you're going to have ace king here because that has to be a call on the flop with 2 over. So there's a bunch of ace kings that you're going to have that are worse than ace queen, right? You're going to... Could I have 4-bet if I had ace king pre-flop? Not necessarily. Maybe you 4-bet the ace king suited, but there's nobody in between. So, you're going to have some combos of ace king here. I don't know, maybe 8 of the 12 offsuit varieties. You're going to which are worse, right? And then of the better hands, you're going to have sets. You might have 6 sets. You might have some flushes here as well. Maybe 4 flushes. So I'm just doing this really dirty. Say you've got 10 value hand, 10 better hands, and then 8 in the form of ace king. Where does sort of ace queen kind of fit into that? It's pretty close, I bet. I bet it's pretty close. And then if you had queen jack and didn't raise the flop, maybe that's the cusp point where maybe you fold off a hand like queen jack. You know what I'm saying? It kind of goes back to it's a little bit bizarre where if he's not the type of guy that's doing a whole lot of 3-betting here with, mid-ish suited connectors, because of the distribution of the suits and the way that they are, he can't really have Broadway hearts unless he's got a royal.
right? King 10 of hearts. So, and his line is almost like he doesn't care about a flush. I mean, I understand the stack sizes, so I might click in the call here and then fold out maybe queen jack and ace king, something like that. And it's funny because even if you had ace king with the king of hearts, I'm not necessarily sure if it's all that relevant for the reasons that I just stated.
So you think the bet size in the river, it's kind of a flush or nothing? I shouldn't worry about that. He might have a king 10 for the straight or a set or anything like that.
No. I mean, of course you have to worry about that, but I think most hands that are really, really thick like this would be flushes, and I do find it a little bit peculiar that he doesn't seem to care that much about having a flush here. Now, if he had the other king 10s that weren't royals, he could probably take this line. I mean, that's 3 combos, right? Like king 10 of spades, something like that. But again, if you've got some suited hands here, it is interesting with one, how he constructs here on turn and then all in on the river, because you do have some flushes, to defend down with. So I think I would get curious here and probably flick in the call, but it's probably pretty close.
Okay, so now one thing, I'm not very good at, table talk and trying to discern from all that, but there was a little bit that I'm curious if your thoughts on that. I tanked for a bit when he made the shove, and I started, talking, and so I, said I have a pretty good hand, and he suspected I might have ace jack. I told him no, I have ace queen. I was just talking out loud saying I was trying to find what bluffs he had. And from my perspective, the main bluffs that he would have would be involving the king of hearts, maybe pocket kings with the king of hearts, or maybe ace king with the king of hearts. And so he then said,
"So wait, hold on for a second. So let's just explore what you just said. So that's actually one thing that I think that you have going against you here. Number one, I don't believe that ace king with the king of hearts should run a bluff here. It's too strong. It doesn't need to run a bluff. Okay, when you take a look at this run out. He doesn't need to bluff ace king with the king of hearts. What, to get you off of like queen jack specifically? To get you off of ace queen? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Now, hands that have the other king of hearts here, like king king with the king of hearts, and like if he did like king queen off, with the which of course there's less combos because you've got a queen in your hand with the queen of hearts, with the king of hearts. Now maybe that should be bluffed, but of course is one of the small stakes exploits is that a lot of live players don't find those spots to turn hands with some showdown value into bluffs. So I actually think that works against you, because I can count the number of times I've seen a guy do this with kings with the king of hearts. It's possible, but it's probably a lot less likely than it should happen.
Okay, so I was talking out loud about this, and then when I mentioned that, he said that he did not have the king of hearts. And now, obviously, it's poker; he can be blind. But for whatever reason, I believe what he was saying at this point, and that I wasn't sure how to react to that, because I think, from my perspective, that, like I said, having the king of hearts would be his primary bluffs. And so, if he doesn't have that, well, again, he could be lying. But I wasn't sure how to interpret that.
So, what did you end up doing?
So I ended up flicking in the call, and he showed ace 10 offsuit with the 10 of hearts, which he mentioned was a key, key card for him to have. So I think from his perspective, he was bluffing with top pair at the end.
Well, you don't have your video on here, Michael, so you probably weren't able to see my very confused look that I just gave when you said that he had ace 10 with the 10 of hearts. Because that is a very confused look. Again, I don't understand why you would have to run some sort of bluff with an ace in it here on this run out. And I would surmise that it's not correct. Why does he have to? I mean, obviously he did, right? Good call, right? It just goes to show you that people don't know what they're doing. Because why does ace, we can talk about how it's obviously a little bit off, maybe a little bit light to 3-bet ace 10 off anyways here from the small blind, but why would he have to run ace 10 with the 10 of hearts here? What is he trying to get you off of?
My guess would be he's trying to get me off of a hand like I had, trying to get me off of a 2-pair type of hand.
Trying to get you off of ace king, maybe? Something like that. But it doesn't seem... I mean, if you want to make a case where he goes a little bit... he went half pot on turn. If you want to make a case that he could go a little bit smaller on turn for value/protection, like bet 200, and then you call, it would seem to me that the river should be a check from his perspective. Don't you think that he's ahead more often if he goes 175 than like 200 on turn with ace 10 on the river than not? And And if you wanted to somehow bluff catch against something, although it would be hard to find, the river should be played more efficiently like a check and evaluate, I would think. Maybe a check fold, but remember, you can check with the intention of check folding. It doesn't mean that you're going to lose, right? If it goes check, check, he's probably going to win with ace 10. So it's pretty bizarre to me, but nice call. You can never dismiss that sort of spazzy factor, right, of the live player. But you did say he was a winning player, so.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it.